Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck. I am Mark Corbett, your host, and with me today is my co-host, Mr. Matt Germain, the man who is the detective when it comes to uncovering all the ugly truths in baseball and finding out the facts about what really makes a good game. Hey, Matt, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm having a great time. How about you?
I am just loving it, my brother. I know you're up there in beautiful Canada, and it has been interesting. I'm just going to kind of jump in here, looking at a couple of guys who've gone up, in the last year. So we saw KK go up there, and then from the Reds, Joey Votto, Canadian native, if I remember correctly. It's like, wow. Did you see what Joey did on this first at bat with the Blue Jays the other day?
Sure did. Yeah. Home run on the first pitch that he saw. And I don't think he believed it. He kind of thought it was a double. So great to see Joey V get some love in Canada. And, everybody's kind of hyped to see, whether or not he can actually earn a spot on the team. But it's a great story.
I hope so. I know he's 40 years old, but I think that guy's got more spirit than a lot of folks in the game. So I really hope to see him do well, man.
Yep. Oh, you never wish him wrong for sure.
No. We were talking before the show about spring training, and I had the opportunities on St. Patrick's Day to go see the Rays play the Pirates in Bradenton. Being able to be that close to the team, it's so much more personal. You're able to see some of the main players, but in a spring training game, you don't expect to see the full top 9 contingent up there in the batting sequence. I can't speak in the batting lineup. But the thing of it is, you get to see all these new guys. It's so exciting. And for that particular day, got to see Siri, got to see Brandon Lau.
Wow. Yeah.
The reason I say that is because they actually put up Josh Lowe's photo up on the board instead of Brandon's. Yeah, Brandon Lau. So that was kind of cool. And, you see Paredes and Siri. Siri was out there. And the crowd, spring training crowd, Matt, as Siri does this wonderful hit, he's going first, he's heading second, and he's thinking about third. And as he goes around the corner, the balls are coming in from the outfield, and Siri just stops and waves his hand, no, to the outfielder, don't throw it. And the guy behind me says, Kiermaier would have gone to third.
Yeah, KK's got an arm.
Oh, God, you gotta love him. Anyway, it was just a lot of fun and seeing all those guys out there and seeing the new names. Even today, I think seeing, who was it? Zagara, a pitcher's name, a name I never heard of. You dig deep. I mean, I talk about you being the detective, and you dig deep on a lot of these names. Tell me about some of the ones that you're seeing possibly coming up.
I think everybody's kind of getting their eyes opened about a lot of different Rays. I wouldn't, prospects or arms, especially. I think a lot of people are focused on the arms because the Rays have some open spots, I guess we can say.
Oh, yeah.
But Jake Mangum is one that's been opening a lot of eyes because he's leading the Rays in a lot of categories. I think he's leading them in average, on base percentage, OPS, and stolen bases this spring. So when you talk about somebody that's making a statement in spring, he's certainly getting that done. So whether or not he breaks camp with the Rays is I don't want to say it's irrelevant, but what he's done so far is going to leave a mark on the coaching staff and kind of get them to say, you know what, we need another outfielder, we need a switch hitter, somebody that can cover all 3 outfield spots. Well, he's your guy. Another one that's opening up a lot of eyes from today really is Manuel Rodriguez. He's the kind of guy like some people might have been surprised he was protected from the Rule 5. I wasn't. I've seen him pitch for Durham. This guy is going to be a double play machine. He's going to miss a lot of bats. He just does everything really well. So when they let Andrew Kittredge go, I think they had him in mind as somebody, along with the pronunciation of Phil Maton. We were talking about that before the show. Both of those guys kind of give you that warm feeling that the Rays are going to have some depth in the pen. So those are the spring performances that are fun to watch. The infielders the Rays have brought in. You mentioned one before when we were talking, Jose Caballero. and he's going to inherit the shortstop position. I'm really excited about what he can do. I know he's not making as much contact this spring as you would expect, but he's just electric. His speed is there's a game this spring where he didn't even get a hit and he still managed somehow to steal 2 bases. So he's one of those guys that's going to add some value to the bottom of the Rays lineup. And some of the pieces that they have upcoming that are trying their hardest to earn spots, like Ruben Cardenas and Austin Shenton, and they're able to do those kinds of highlight reel things and get those big moments in spring, but it's still tough to make it onto the Rays roster, especially with a lineup as tough as theirs.
Well, let's talk about Caballero for a moment because you're talking about the shortstop position. And the shortstop position's been kind of interesting over the last few years. I mean, we had Adames and we had poor Franco. We then all this everything surrounding him. We had Walls. Walls was coming in and he was kind of doing second base and shortstop, I guess. Second base, we've pretty much been solid with Brandon Lau most of the time there. Right. And correct me if I'm wrong on all these, but then kept saying shortstop, we're going to be so full with that. But then Walls is out. Franco, obviously, he's out. And then you say, well, guess what? We got Carson Mead, and he's done second. He's done shortstop, and now we're moving him to third. It's infield. I don't think Neander has a whole lot of trouble of having some talent. I think it's sometimes just where to put it.
No, Curtis Mead is actually a natural third baseman, and I've always said from the beginning that his future home long term is going to be either at second base or first base. Second base, I don't know how his range is going to play at the MLB level. I'll have to see him play there more than I have. He's a little bit like Jonathan Aranda on that front, where you love having the bat there at second, but the defense might not always be, optimal at the position. But they've dealt with that with Brandon Lau anyway. That's the way they've always operated, generally at second base. But the interesting thing about Jose Caballero is that he can play a mean second base, like really, really much higher level than Curtis Mead or Jonathan Aranda. So when Carson Williams ends up being ready and he's Gold Glove caliber shortstop with tons of power, then he inherits shortstop when he comes up to the Rays. Then they can move Jose Caballero around wherever they need him. And to be honest, he's athletic enough and fast enough that you could see him cover the outfield, sort of like what they did today with Randy Arozarena, and test him in center field. I could see them making Jose Caballero a super utility role guy in the future once Carson Williams demands full playing time.
Actually, I said Carson. I said Carson Mead. I meant Curtis Mead earlier. He was playing third today. But yeah, Carson Williams. I mean, this is it. We've got some great talent out there. And like you're saying, if they can move Caballero around with that talent, I mean, when I saw him St. Patrick's Day, he would get that ball and he would make it move. He would make sure that it got over to first or wherever it needed to be quickly. And before the show, we were talking to you about him stealing bases. He was aggressive. Aggressive. I mean, he adds a lot of excitement to the game out there. So I'm really curious to see him evolve as well.
Yeah, I think the speed the Rays are going to show this year, assuming guys hold up and we don't get too many Josh Lowe type situations with the hip, they could test 200 stolen bases this year if they really push the envelope. More than likely, it'll be somewhere between 170 and 190, but that's a lot of stolen bases, and it really keeps them in the games and winning some of those close ones, especially. And that's part of the Rays' moxie, right? Is being able to win the tight ones, and they're the ones that are going to keep your record healthy.
Yeah, long ago, I think it was with Chris Smith on the show a couple of years ago, and he's talking about, well, they put these rules in place, you're going to see like Ricky Henderson's stolen base record, kind of disappear. Yeah, I get that, but it sure has made for an exciting season this past year.
Wait for Chandler Simpson. When Chandler Simpson makes it to the Rays, then you're going to see some records break. Yeah, that guy is lightning. It's incredible.
Well, he is definitely now on my radar, Chandler Simpson. You know what? Who wasn't on my radar, and looks like he's just now joining the Rays, Jake Odorizzi.
Yeah, an old name. An old friend.
Yeah, it just popped up, I guess, in spring training with the Rays this past weekend. So I always liked Odo on the mound. So I'm really curious to see how he does there as well. I mean, we're still looking for to hopefully get Boz and Rasmussen back. And I really was concerned about losing Kit, but as you pointed out, I think we probably got probably was a good idea.
Yeah, it was time. I think there's signs that Kittredge, I mean, if he has another hiccup, it could be, really diminishing what he can manage on on the mound. The Cards will probably still get a good season from him. It's not diminishing his ability. It's more of saying the Rays had uh, more assured and health conscious people to take his spot. For Odorizzi, I remember, like, I've written him up so many times. He's not a flashy guy. He probably won't even get you more than 8K per nine, right? I'm curious to see if the Rays decide to use him behind somebody like Tyler Alexander and use him in a bulk role. I think that would be making optimum use of what he can do, especially innings wise. So he could probably chew up 3, 4 innings in that role, and then hand it over to the pen. I, I just think, knowing the Rays and knowing how probably willing he is to take in information now compared to what he was way back when. I think they could get a little bit more out of him than most people expect. But do they really need to? I don't know. With Todd Bradley and Shane Boss coming back, eventually Jeffrey Springs and Drew Rasmussen, they just, how they used Rich Hill when they acquired him, not last year, but the year before. It's the same kind of deal with Jake Odorizzi. They need him to help out, between now and June, and then we'll see if he's able to stick around. But when they gave him up for Germain Palacios way back in 2018, I I didn't understand it. I didn't see the value in Germain Palacios. He had 2 strong seasons with the Twins afterwards, and I was a little bit frustrated that they didn't really get a decent prospect for him at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is Rays generally make great trades, and it just happened to be one of them that didn't pop.
Yeah.
Well, let's step back for a second, Matt, and take a look at the pitching for the Rays. And I've got a list here, but I want you to tell me what makes sense here. I'm looking. I think you maybe put this together. Zach Eflin, Savale, Zach Littell, Ryan Pepio, and Taj Bradley. But Taj is injured right now at the moment, isn't he?
Right. So what they're looking at right now is a choice that they have to make between Jake Wagaspak.
Wow.
I hate saying his name. I really do. I call him Wags. Yeah, Jacob Lopez and Jake Odorizzi. And I think, there's a outside chance that they bring up Uwasawa if they're more comfortable with that option. But those are the 4 guys that are essentially working out for a bulk role, unless the Rays decide to give it to like a pen day sort of thing with Tyler Alexander and Chris Davinsky splitting, that start. That just diminishes your pen a little bit for a couple of other games, right? So I think, it really, it's between the 2 Jakes, the Jacob or the 3 Jakes and Jacobs. So you've got Jacob Lopez, Jacob Wag, and Jake Odorizzi. So it's kind of interesting the way that it's turned out. I don't know when we're going to see Jake Odorizzi on the mound for the Rays, but we'll have to see whether or not they want to get a couple of outings in AAA for other guys and use Jake right from the start, or if they go the opposite. I think they're really comfortable with what they're seeing from Wag, and they pulled him out of the game today. They were going to put him in the ninth for some reason. Maybe it was a mistake and they didn't really mean to, and they took him right back out. I haven't heard anything about him being injured or anything, so hopefully that's the case. And they've really liked what they've seen from him and the progression from what they're trying to do. So hopefully he can stay healthy and not be another notch in the belt sort of thing, where the IL just keeps growing.
Oh Lord, yes. But
Hmm.
man, I, You look at all the and you look at all the starting pitchers that will not be starting this season. I mean, whether it be Verlander, there's a whether it be Cole, all these other people that you normally would think would be maybe there at opening day will not. And
I don't want to hear any other team complain about it because the Rays have a full rotation on IL and an elite one at that. You got McClanahan, Springs, Rasmussen, and Bradley. I mean, come on. That's as if it's the same as if the Yankees had Cole, Rodon, Schmidt, and Cortez on the IL. I mean, you take those away from the Yankees, where are they? The Rays are still able to have. I don't want to say they're going to be elite because I still don't know where Pepio stands. I'm kind of on the fence there
yeah,
as to how quickly they're getting him to where they want to. I get glimpses of what they're trying to do, and I don't think they've used this pitch mix the way they will in game during the season. So I'm holding out judgment basically, but I really love what I've seen from Zach Littell. To me, him and Savali, when I look at the 2 and 3 across the AL East, I'm like, they're right there. They're either just ahead or just behind most of the other teams in the AL East. So I'm comfortable with that. So really for the Rays, it comes down to that 5th spot and how far Pepio can take his game.
so you don't see us necessarily investing in a Jordan Montgomery or a Blake Snell?
Well, I don't think we need to be honest. I don't. Like Jeffrey Springs is going to return at some point. And to me, you're going towards the playoffs, you have a fresh arm. I'm not saying he's going to dominate right from the start. And that's, it's not reasonable to expect that. But you have him and Rasmussen coming where you can juggle some things around, and you're better off waiting to see where people are in July and make your move then. The Rays still have enough talent to do that. They have a ton of double-A talent coming. We saw Yaniel Curet come in this spring and show really well as a young guy, right? We don't know what his season is going to look like and how quickly he'll be able to make it up. We have Ian Seymour, we have Logan Workman, we have a whole plethora of guys that could really make leaps and bounds, through the first 3-4 months of the year. So on top of that, look, we're seeing this spring, there's a ton of pitchers that are going to get hurt. Why invest so heavily in them right now when you're going to end up stuck with them if they get hurt as well? So to me, you're better off waiting until June or July and make your move then. The Rays are comfortable right now, I'm sure, with 3 of their starters, probably almost comfortable with 4. They have Taj Bradley and Shane Baz coming back probably in May sometime. Those are 2 huge talents. You're not going to want to block them. You're not going to want to shove Shane Baz in the 6th inning, right? Or keep him in AAA where you're taking opportunities from other people. It just doesn't make any sense. There's teams where it makes sense because you're not stuck, with your moves afterwards. But for the Rays, it just makes no sense. After they're in the new stadium, maybe. Maybe.
Maybe. Let's qualify that one more time. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Matt, walk me through the infield this year. I mean, we talked about so many different people who could be at second and third or at shortstop. I mean, whether it be Junior Caminero, whether it be Caballero, whether it be, Mead, whether it be, oh, you tell me, brother.
So many options. So you have the mainstays, right? The guys that are not going anywhere are Yandy Diaz, Jonathan Aranda, and Isaac Paredes. Aranda's case, it has a lot to do with Rayleigh and Lowe being gone. Like for now, like I'm told Josh Lowe comes back from his injury, so they need his left-handed bat in the lineup big time. The amount of contact and between him and Yandy Diaz will drive pitchers nuts. In terms of driving up their pitch counts, you add Isaac Paredes, who tends to be in the same kind of realm, and then all of a sudden you've got a really, lengthened lineup. So the guys that are fighting for spots really are Ahmed Rosario, who has no options, so he's going to be on the roster. You know that. He can shift around and play multiple positions, but really, I don't think most teams are comfortable with him very much in the infield. He'll get spot starts, I think, at second base, and the rest of the time he'll be in the outfield. I don't think we'd want to see him at shortstop, even though he can play the position. there's a reason why teams kind of let him go afterwards. It hasn't been pretty. And the Rays could work on it with him, and maybe he improves and to the point where they're comfortable with it. So that's fine. But really, the big battle, in my opinion, is between Curtis Mead and Harold Ramirez, because you also want to have the bat of Richie Palacios on the bench if you can, because like I said before, the left-handed bats are lacking with the Rays. So if you're able to squeeze one in there by having a bench role, where you can actually get a little bit more value out of Richie Palacios by using him in his optimal spots, then it makes more sense to have Curtis Mead begin the year possibly in AAA, and then have him come up later on when he's really hot and they can decide what to do with the rest of the roster. Because between him, Brandon Lau, and Harold Ramirez, you do have a DH option, or you put Yandy Diaz there. But it's one of those carrying two right-handed bats that can only really play first base and second base, or left field in Harold's case, if you're comfortable with him out there. And I've heard he's a little bit better this year than he's been, in the past. So I just think, with Richie Palacios actually probably making the lineup and Jose Caballero being an automatic at shortstop, that's your really tough decision, is who gets dropped off the roster between Curtis Mead and Harold Ramirez.
Yeah, and it's like all the players. You wind up personally loving them, and you hate to see him go. But I got a feeling, the Harold endears himself to people, some of the things he does with charity and everything else to boot. And there's just something about that smile that he has. It's kind of a quiet smile that endears him to a lot of people. And Curtis is, he's the new guy. He's coming up, and I think that everybody will appreciate him. It's just like you hate to see a beloved character or a player go. And I got a feeling Harold's going to be gone by the end of the year.
Yeah, well, we'll see. The injuries have a tendency of sorting some of those decisions out. It happens so often where you think there's a battle and then boof, one of them ends up injured and the decision's made.
Well,
yeah.
And you make a good point too about sending some guys down to AAA and having them ready. I mean, they're kind of the just in case guys. And
if you look at Curtis Mead, for instance, right? Like he's going to be if he goes down to AAA for a little bit, he gets to turn double plays with Carson Williams down there. And we know both of them are probably going to be long-term mainstays in the middle of the Rays infield. So why not have them build a rapport together in AAA? They've never played together before, and get used to one another at second and at short, and then bring them up, at similar times, like a couple of months apart, whatever it may be. But there's nothing wrong with Curtis Mead getting the bat going and the confidence. And they did something similar with somebody else recently, or they did it with Wander Franco, really, even. They brought him up in June. It bought another year of control, and he was better off for it. Like his bat was lightning, by the time he was into that part of his season, and he's better able to handle it. But I just think at that point, you're also going to have Taylor Walls coming off injury, probably trying to take up a spot as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see the in-season moves that the Rays make this year, because they have some returning players that are going to force their hand with a 40-man roster.
Yeah, and like you said, the injuries and seeing some people come back, Walls having to fight his way back in. It's interesting because, once again, talking about AAA, the Rays have brought up their Bulls manager, Michael Johns. And it's interesting because I'm wondering what kind of strength will he have in relationship with some of these young players that are coming up into the system. Is there a way where he can help them with the transition simply because he's worked with them before?
It's huge. Like he knows Jonathan Aranda so well now, and even Josh Lowe and a lot of the other guys that have come through. There's just going to be a comfort there of working with them, right? And also the guy they're putting up in AAA, which is Morgan Ensberg, he's been with the majority of these guys as well. So when they go down to AAA, they're going to get that high level managing there as well. So you're right though. That relationship with the younger crowd, for generally the ones that have been around, is going to be important. But the Rays do have quite a few players that are coming from outside the organization as well. So you have like Johnny DeLuca, Richie Palacios, Jose Caballero, all what you would call the supporting cast guys, and Ahmed Rosario as well. That's four guys that weren't really part of the organization, and he's just gonna have to build a rapport with them. But the Rays managers and coaches are so good at that, at being quick to adopt and build a relationship with guys. And I think that's part of the strength of what the Rays do. You hear people leaving the Rays and they want to go back. They want it, they relish the experience because they did so well with that support cast and with the information they provided them.
Well, who was it? I mean, there's a lot of players. I wondered if we'd ever see them come back again. It's interesting seeing Odo. But looking at these young guys coming up, or from other locations rather, DeLuca and Rosario. DeLuca, now is he coming in injured?
He's injured right now. Yeah, he'll probably be. I think he might be a mid-May to late May return, maybe even as much as June, depending on how long it takes to get that strength back in his hand. It's a broken hand for him.
What do we expect from him?
I'm expecting big things. I actually like him more than Manuel Margot for the future, right?
Yeah.
I think he can play all three outfield spots. He's very quick bat. He can, put in a decent at bat every time, which is what Manuel Margot's strength was as well. And he plays hard every day. And so somebody with a high energy level, which I think the Rays needed a little bit more, especially late in the season. They needed to get a little bit younger and fresher to push themselves across the finish line a little bit more.
And Rosario?
Rosario is just one of those guys that the bat is going to benefit the bench so much. He's part of the reason I think the Rays have the best bench in all the AL East by a good margin, really. Like the Orioles could possibly have the higher bench, but I'm expecting some sophomore kind of setbacks a little bit in their lineup. But because of the experience, the steady nature of the at-bats that Ahmed Rosario is going to give you, and the whether or not you have Curtis Mead's elite bat or Harold Ramirez, it doesn't really matter. Kevin Cash has tools to use off the bench. You look at Aaron Boone's bench as an example of what he's going to have to work with. And you've got somebody like Trent Grisham, which, you're not going to replace anybody in your lineup for him. Oswaldo Cabrera, yeah, he's a nice player. He's young, low average, not really high on base. And you've got Austin Wells, which is your catcher. He might be catching half the time. So when he's not catching, then you're not really going to use Jose Trevino as your next option, and they don't really know who's going to get the other spot. Right now, they have Ben Roosevelt as an option, but I think when you look at the strength of the Rays right now for the 2024 season, there's the bullpen, the overall defense, the lineup steadiness, especially at the top, and the power that they might have now with Randy Arozarena, looking really strong. he's kind of thicker, and the speed that they have. Those are the three mainstay things you can bank on. The starting pitching, we're going to have to wait and see, and I think Kevin Cash is the perfect person, along with Kyle Snyder, to have controlling that, because they're going to need to be creative all season long, and it's nothing new to them. It's just status quo, really. So that's why the Rays are one of the few teams where I can look at and say the rotation on paper looks lackluster, and I know it's going to be elite. Just because I know the way the Rays operate, and I have faith in their scouting, the analytics, the advice they get, the management they get through the season, and how they're able to plug and play guys when needed.
Well, as we know, not much could be said about what's going to happen after 162 games from what we see in the spring training, but everything that looks, when you look across everything with the Rays here, it says strength, it says longevity, it says depth. And a lot of teams can't say that. I mean, just like you're talking about the Yankees, and some of their top performers, the money has not paid off for them. I was looking at the Dakota standings here from Baseball Perspective, and they've got the Yankees leading the AL East with 92 wins, Toronto with 88, the Rays with 87.4, Baltimore with 86.6, and Boston with 78.5 wins projected. So I should save this because I want to look at it after 162 games and see what any of this looks like. But I cannot see the Yankees doing as well as they're hoping.
They're a fourth place team in the AL East.
I
They're
agree.
they're not even a top place. I like the Blue Jays more, especially with Turner on board. I think he'll settle down a lot of the. I don't know if it's an immaturity or kind of an awkwardness in their locker room and kind of not taking the game as seriously as they should game after game after game and kind of getting sidetracked. But I think he'll bring that steady presence they need, and Joey Votto as well if he makes it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
their starting staff, until Kevin Gossman falls off, which there's smoke a little bit in his arm, and until Chris Bassett slows down. If they have those two, they're going to be a threat to be, steady. And I think they have the best pen in the AL East. So they're not going to go, bonkers and get past the Rays and Orioles and be a significant length ahead. Would I be shocked if they won the AL East? Not at all. I think they're more of a third place team because I do think some of their pitching will fall off sometime during the season, and their depth is young and not really high innings levels. So as the season goes on, they're going to be tired. They're going to have ups and downs left and right. So I think they're more of a third place team. The Orioles, I still think, are going to possibly win if Corbin Burns can shake off the spring rust
Right.
and they settle out the rotation in the back end. But I think they might win the AL East and the Rays will be right there with them. It'll be like maybe 1 or 2 games difference. So that's my expectation so far. I could change in 10 days. I'm still waiting to see the next Ryan Pepio start, and I would love to be able to make my predictions after his first in-season start, but I know we don't get that shot. So I just think, like you said before, the Yankees predictions are just crazy. I don't understand what people are watching. I know Soto and Judge is fearsome, but you have LeMahieu and Rizzo and Stanton weighing down that lineup, and they are not elite players anymore. They are league average. So if you are looking at those three, and then the young guys that they have, Volpe is awesome. I like Volpe. He's got the tools to do really good things, but he can't carry the rest of the lineup on his own. Like, they need more guys, especially with how banged up they end up getting. And Aaron Judge has already got a core issue and a toe issue before we even start the season. So eventually it's going to wind up being Soto alone, just like it was Judge alone before that.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I just don't.
No, and I mean, this goes to the heart of what you and I were talking about even before the show. Sportscasters, a lot of them work on either the East Coast or the West Coast, and they get familiar with the teams that are around there. If they're working out of a big hub like New York and the Boston area, not surprisingly, they're going to learn more about those teams. Yeah. And we played a bit. I'll play this bit now. It's earlier. You and I heard it, and it's where an MLB guy is talking. One of the MLB folks is doing the reviews during the spring training, and they're doing 30 teams in 15 days, and they talk about the Rays. And I'll play this for you right now.
I love Yandy Diaz. When you talk about Yandy Diaz and what he means to this lineup, hitting 330, 20-plus homers. If he were in any other market, we would be talking about Yandy Diaz as a household name. He should be. Paredes on the other side of the diamond is just as good. You're talking about another guy hitting 30 homers, driving in 100 runs. Again, Paredes, Yandy Diaz, we're in any other market, we would be talking about them a lot more. They are staples around Randy Arozarena in this lineup.
So if Yandy played somebody else, he'd get some attention. That's what these guys are saying, man. And I got to tell you, Matt, I don't know. I guess there's a little bit of ugly truth to it, but part of it goes back to what I don't know, self-fulfilling prophecy may be the wrong way to put it. But if you're not giving attention except to those teams like the Dodgers and such on the West Coast that are really doing well, or you're looking at the team that you've historically expected to do great, but you haven't been paying attention to what's happened in the last 2 years, shame on you, meaning the Yankees and in New York. There's a certain myopia, I believe, that goes on with some of these broadcasters.
Absolutely. And when you think about it, like Yandy Diaz is 3 years younger than DJ LeMahieu. 3 years younger. Like, and he's doing way more than DJ LeMahieu ever has. DJ LeMahieu can only dream of a season like Leondy Diaz had last year. But you'll hear DJ LeMahieu being an elite player for the Yankees all day long. You won't hear the same thing. Everybody will point to Yandy Diaz and say, oh, we expect regression. Are you kidding me? If there's a guy who's more routine and steady as it goes, it's Yandy Diaz. He's the guy that I can bank on day in, day out the last 2 years that he's been the same exact guy in the lineup every time he shows up at the plate. His routine is down pat, knows the zone, controls it. Contact is always elite. I don't know. Like I had a conversation with somebody that's really well thought of about Yandy Diaz and his his first base ranking for fantasy purposes, and I was like, I would take him in the top 5 to 6 first baseman, no doubt, because I know what I'm going to get. I can forget about it afterwards, and I know what I'm going to get. And if I have to trade him at the deadline, I get more fantasy value out of him doing that than I would drafting anybody else behind those guys for a first baseman. So I think the Rays are really lucky that he's there. I think he's showing Isaac Paredes a lot of things and how to work, counts and do things at the plate in the same steady mode. And I think it's starting to rub off on Randy Arozarena as well. And when you look at the build that Randy has, maybe he's taking up the workout program that Yandy Diaz had in the offseason, because man, he's thick.
Yeah. I saw that. I thought, okay, maybe it's just a bigger uniform. He's wearing a baggy, but no, there was a thick body in there. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, you cross those arms and see it even more so, Randy. Jeez, crackers. Oh
How many
my.
times did we see like flyouts for Randy where he was like maybe 10 feet from the fence, right?
Yeah.
And how many of those are going to go out this year because of that? It'll be interesting.
It'll be fun to watch. That's for sure. My gosh. Speaking of fun to watch, are you in this NCAA basketball fan at all?
I always make a couple of brackets up just to see if I can throw darts blindly and and land a few. But no, I can't. I don't have the time basically to pay attention to it. But I get it. I get the hype. I get the love of it. The tournament's great. The format is outstanding. I don't know how they do the rankings. I was listening to the radio today, and they were talking about how some of the teams may not have been the right ones to be in, but I don't know how that works. But I do love the hype around it. It's awesome.
Oh, it is. I was looking at, Dick Vitale. He is such a big Rays fan. You'll see him there virtually every game he can make. He's had some health issues, but he's a big Rays fan. I saw him post today on Twitter. He had Kentucky up there, man. It's winning the whole shebang. I was like, wow, yeah, it's kind of out there, but I like Dickie V. I'll put my little $10 bracket. Maybe I'll throw them up there, but it'll be fun. I
I
think
love the Cinderella stories. I always gravitate to them. I don't know why. I think that's to me, the March Madness tournament is exactly why I'm like open up the playoffs completely when it comes to Major League Baseball when they expand, because you can't have Cinderella stories if she's not invited to the ball.
there
You
you
know,
go.
she needs to be in there. And then you have that Cinderella story, and it's great. Every time that you have one, people remember it.
Yeah, it was made for some interesting World Series play. I mean, coming all the way up in the postseason was just exciting as could be. So that's one of the reasons I was thinking about it as well. But can you imagine, man, 64 teams being in a tournament? It's got to be exciting. So I'm looking forward to the end of spring training, beginning of this new season. It's coming up soon. It's probably about 10 games out, if that's maybe 10 days. No, today's the 18th. What does it start on, the 18th or 28th or 29th?
28th, I believe.
28th.
28th. I think it's a Thursday.
Yeah, I think we're just 10 days out, dude.
It's awesome. You know what? Like, this is the time when the bats are starting to get warmed up, and you're seeing the pitchers sweat a little bit more through their outings. But I'm also excited for the minor league season, to be honest. Like people forget that, April 2nd, AAA starts.
Yep.
So they have to make up that roster and get it sorted out really quickly once the last decisions are made and get those few starts going. I like to see that because to me, I like to see the strength of the AAA team because when I can actually put it together and see what they're working with, it tells me who the backup plan are that we are going to use at some point. You can't have a successful major league team without a strong AAA lineup, in my opinion, or you have a less likely chance of doing it.
Well, and that's why if you're a Rays fan, you probably sooner or later want to go to Durham, North Carolina and watch the Bulls because you could see
Great.
some of that talent that's coming up. And sometimes the talent that's gone down, is sharpening their skills. So that's, I love AAA. Heck, I love baseball anywhere. Before the show, I was telling you, I went to Louisville, watched the University of Louisville.
The Durham Stadium's great too. They do a great job like putting on a show and the weather there always seems to be, just perfect baseball weather for some reason. I watch a lot of their games and they always talk about the beautiful sky and they have the sunsets and the sunrises and they do their media things all the time. Like, I don't know. They have a certain way of doing their thing in Durham where you almost feel like you're at a Major League Baseball game.
I have got to make it. I got to make it up there. And we got to get you and your family down here in Florida, man, for spring training in one of these upcoming seasons.
I'm considering it for next year. Next year, I might actually venture down for a good strong week and a half. We'll see.
We're talking about the minor leagues. It's one of the things I enjoy about here. While you've got spring training, as soon as they leave, you've got this, you've got all these minor leagues playing in those really nice spring training stadiums. So I'm within half an hour to an hour to watch most every one of the teams in here in the in the Cactus League. Oh no, in the Grapefruit League. Man, I have not had no sleep. Jeez, Pete.
Yeah.
But it's been good times, and I'm looking forward to what happens this season. I'm excited about opening day, but it's been great to go out and enjoy this close proximity to see some of the great stars and some of the guys that may be coming up. But seeing Mangum, seeing looking at some of the other folks, Caballero. It's been real exciting being out there watching those guys. So we'll see what comes.
Yeah, I'm even. I hate to say it this way because it's going to come off bad. But I almost want the Rays to have to be struggling, through the season so that when they end up near the end of the season, they're not coasting. It seems to me like the more you have to fight for your spot near the end, the more geared up you are for the playoff run. And the Rays have been really bad at setting themselves up to be at their best playing level entering the playoffs for whatever reason. They always seem to have this lack of energy. They're resting guys. They're not really playing the guys that, they're going to be using in the playoffs. And then they end up, having a little bit of a lackluster performance. That's from 21 onwards, let's say. So I'm hoping that they struggle a little bit more. Like I want to see those bumps in the road and the guys scratching and clawing for wins at the end of the season and then take that in with them to the playoffs and really go far and deep.
Yeah, so you won't lose any sleep if we don't have 13 straight wins at the beginning of the season.
That's what I'm aiming at. I think fans are going to be all over that one. They are. You're going to hear it. You're going to hear it. Yeah. I don't know. I always look at it this way. Like the Rays have made the playoffs the last 5 years in a row. And every single year through those, the AAA team has been well above 500. The AA team's been, near it or above. I think the talent is there. It's going to rise. There's going to be guys coming up that we don't expect, and the Rays will figure it out. And they'll be above 500. How far above 500, we don't know. But they'll make the playoffs. I have a strong feeling that they will, and they'll be a threat to anybody they play against.
Exciting times. I'll say it again, Matt. I'm looking forward to this, brothers. But any other notes or any other considerations before we wrap things up?
No, I don't sleep on the Red Sox. I would say. The more I look at their pitching and how the guys are performing in spring, and like anybody other team, there is like it depends on health. Their guys are young enough and not overly used to the point where you could envision their starters actually holding up fairly well, the ones they do have. And I think it's almost a blessing in disguise that Giolito got hurt, because they have guys that can step in and might be able to do better, to be quite honest, which is kind of weird to say. But I really like Tyler O'Neill's as an addition. I think they have Vaughn Grissom at second base is a strong addition to kind of build up their infield a little bit more. And they have a good coach in Alex Cora. So I would not sleep on the Red Sox, squeezing out a bottom of the playoff position if they add something in season because they're doing well, sort of thing. But yeah, like I said, I think it's fun to see how the roster is going to shape out. Keep your ears open, and the Rays, I've always predicted will make one or two moves, as the season nears and are sorting out the last piece of the roster. So we could also see something like that.
Well, you never can give up on Boston. Like I say, Cora's a great coach. Whatever else you may think about that team, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. I think we've got an exciting time ahead of us with the Rays, looking at this team, looking at these players, those who may move up or down or be traded. There is a depth that most teams I don't think can beat their chest about like the Rays. So I'm excited about it, and man, oh man, it's going to be here soon. Thanks a lot, Matt. It's been wonderful once again having you here, and I look forward to talking with you real soon, buddy.
All right, take care.
All righty. Thank you all for joining us here today. Look forward to talking with you soon. And just remember, you can always find us here. You can find us Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere. And also you can find us on www.baseballbizondeck.com. And leave us any notes you might have, any reviews, when we'll look forward to talking with you again real soon. Special thanks to X-Take RUX for the music rocking forward.